Ugh, what is that? Oh man, terrible time for the camera to cut on. I got like something on my. Okay, it was like a. Anyway, hey, yo, I'm here. What's going on, y'all? It's your main man, Rick the Dawn. Hey, he's so crazy. All right, yo. So this episode is brought to you by reallyhood.com and the Really Hood podcast. If you like anything of what you hear today, you can listen to my podcast. Available everywhere. And I know I'm a little late. So yesterday I was busy, so I was not able to watch the episode. So I actually caught it on mylifetime.com. I did not know you can watch the episodes free. I thought you had to pay your subscription. So no, you can watch it free, and that was pretty awesome. I really liked it. But I want to talk about some things. A lot happened this episode, and I will admit I was a little like hoping to see more honeymoon information stuff, but it just didn't come to fruition. All right, the first couple I want to talk about is this couple here, McKinley and Dominique. So where do I start with this couple? Oh my gosh. I think there's some chatter going around, and I think people know more than I do. And if you have caught any of my live streams, then you know I don't look at any spoilers or anything like that. Um, I keep seeing the previews of her walking down the hallway with a box. I heard some chatter. I can't confirm whether or not what I heard is true. I'm hearing that she's pregnant, and I haven't did any digging to figure out whether or not that's a true assessment. I hope that's not what's happening. I know somebody gonna spoil it for her. I know somebody gonna spoil it for me, but I don't really want to know. And if that is true, that's gonna change everything. But in this episode, they further solidified their relationship, their love for one another, and it was hard for me to watch because in the back of my mind, I'm like, is she pregnant? The whole time. And there was a scene when they're walking in Jamaica that I'm like, her stomach does look a little, And then the next morning, I think the family asked her, "Hey, what did you all do?" And she said, just got some sleep. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what a pregnant woman would say. So I'm like, I'm hoping that that's not what's going on. That's probably what's going on, right? I mean, because you kept hearing in the previews, I think Pastor Cal or somebody saying this has never happened before, and I think the only logical thing is pregnancy. I mean, that's never happened before, and if that's true, I don't know. That changes everything. It's hard to even comment on a relationship because if that is what's going on, it really flips my entire perspective. I have to ask myself, how did she put herself in this situation? Did she drink at the wedding? And if so, oh crap, it's a lot of that. So I guess the only fair thing to do is proceed as if I don't know, because I don't know. This couple, I ultimately stated that they would get a divorce, and it's primarily due to the age gap. Nothing in this episode really changed my perspective. They're still playing really nice. They're still saying all the nice things to each other. Nothing that stands out. It's kind of like a very generic relationship. I have to say this, and I can't be the only person that's seeing this. I don't see a real connection here. I see a fake connection. We were able to see that Mac is pretty happy with the way she looks. We saw Mac's mother, McKinley's mother, extremely upset. Okay, uh, you know, I've I've never had a white American mother, so I don't know. I don't know all the faces. I don't know like all the subtle hints that a white American mother will give. My mother was Black American, so but I was able to still get some. I was able to pick up some things and say she's not happy with the situation. She's just not happy with this entire process. And I just found out that McKinley's from Michigan. So also being from Michigan, I'm like, oh no. So this is gonna be interesting because it's this can I don't know if you're catching my drift here. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I don't know. Now Dominique's mom also had some reservations. I even think the grandmother was there. And they seem to focus more so on the race situation, obviously for obvious reasons. Um, was it inappropriate to bring it up so much? I don't know. I don't know. It's their baby. Who am I to say what's good or what's bad when it concerns somebody's child? I don't know. But it was a little hard to watch both sides. It was hard to watch. McKinley's mom act so nasty. She was pretty nasty. Let's be fair. She's pretty nasty. Just saying, I really didn't like the idea at all as far as the marriage is concerned. I just thought that was a little Debbie Downer. And then on the other side, Dominique's mother and grandmother just kind of only looking at the negative. Wasn't a big fan of that. But again, this is their children, and I understand. Nothing really sways with this couple for me, with the exception of I like how they're faking it. I'll say that, but I don't think this couple is gonna, survive much longer. And especially if the news that I'm hearing, the chipper, the little church, just hear little people saying things. And I'll tell you how I found out. I was typing something and I looked down in the comment section. I saw the word pregnant and I saw the word she, and I was like, oh, I hope they're not talking about Dominique. That just sucks. Okay. The next couple I want to talk about is Christopher and Nicole. This couple is just so beautiful. Now, I said that this couple will get a divorce, but it's pretty clear by this point. I have to be wrong unless people are seeing things I'm not seeing in terms of previews and they're in spoiler groups. I'm not in any of that stuff. And I'm just going strictly off the show. And that I do that to keep my takes very open and honest. I just love this couple. And it's funny because Christopher, he's so, I've said this before and I'll say it again. He's just a really, really nice guy. And you just don't see guys like this on a regular basis. And it makes me worried. I was very upset with her father, Nicole's father, once again, just watching how he immediately went to the negative and immediately tore Chris down. I feel like Chris is the kind of guy who will never stand up for himself in terms of someone that's dealing with him aggressively. He just won't be that person, and I feel like he'll just continually hurt internally. And it just made me upset to see her father so. He reminded me of a New York. Is he from New York? He reminds me of a wise guy. That's what he reminded me of the entire time he was on the screen, and that sucked. But I want to really talk about the intimate moment that Chris and Nicole share as they're talking about their exes. And Chris mentions that his ex is or was very emotionally abusive and never kissed him, never held his hand. And of course, Nicole responded, very genuinely to that story. And then she shares one of her own in which she encountered mental abuse, right? Even physical abuse. The ex that she was with took a cigarette and put it out on her arm. And it told me that these two people are basically the same type of person. They're very vulnerable and they're very childlike. And watching them both on screen reminded me of just watching like two 5-year-olds just having a very open and honest conversation about or to one another. And it was just like it's like these are like two peas in a pod, and it was so beautiful to watch. I'm like, this is really beautiful. Now, what worries me about this couple and why I won't rush to change my divorce verdict is because they're so bubbly and they're so what I would call naive that if something were to go wrong, I'm not sure they would know how to handle it. And you have to think in the real world, Christopher and Nicole are going to encounter real life scenarios. So if you take two 5-year-olds who are very beautiful, very beautiful to watch in terms of their love and how it's blossoming, if you take those two 5-year-olds and you place them in the very real and sometimes evil world, how will they fare? And I'm telling you, I'm a little concerned about how they'll be able to get over bumps and hurdles, not necessarily with one another, but just in general. But this couple is without question definitely showing me some things that I really like to see. I like to see. Now, I want to point out that Nicole is hilarious and she is very sexually aggressive. And Christopher, I'm just worried about this guy. He's very shy, and I don't know why. I don't understand why he's so shy. Even when she brought up, sex, are we doing it tonight? He was like, well, I guess possibly. I'm like, dude, what? I mean, I'm thinking more like 90% of men on the planet would have jumped at that particular, offer and not had any second guesses about it. But who knows? The next couple I want to talk about is Eris and Jasmine. This couple was pretty interesting this episode. I initially said that they would stay married, and that was based off of first impressions. I make all my picks when I first see the couples, but the more and more that I hear Eris talk, and the more I get to know the kind of person he is, the more and more I'm getting terrified of this relationship. He is really showing out, and I'm starting to get the vibe that he's doing this for the cameras, and maybe even this entire process for the camera. When you look at his actions, when you look at the way that he carries himself, he doesn't carry himself like what I would perceive as a husband. I want to be fair to Eris and say that that's just my personal opinion. I don't necessarily think and know that I'm right. I just feel that, just listening to him talk, he seems to be heavily focused on the physical. And when it comes to marriage, the physical is a part of it, but you have to want to love and want to know that person you're with outside of the bedroom. Because if your entire relationship centers on sex, I don't think that you're going to be married for long, right? My mother told me this a while ago. Don't pick a woman based off of physical attributes and characteristics, because as that person ages, that stuff goes away, and you really have to be in love with the person they are. And Eris doesn't seem to have heard that quote before. Don't pick a woman based off of. Now, I will say that Jasmine is very, very beautiful. I thought that once she took off her makeup and all that kind of stuff, she would definitely take a plunge down in the looks category. But I have to say, she held her own. She still looked very good. And I would argue that Eris should be happy to have a woman who looks as good as Jasmine. Call me crazy, but I'm not buying the player. I got girls by the dozen. I'm not buying it. And perhaps it's because I'm from a different area of the world, like in Detroit. I'm not sure that, Eris would be something that the ladies I've talked to, the ladies I've seen, the ladies I've dated, I'm not sure he would, be this hot commodity. I'm not sure, unless in Nashville there's some kind of drought or something. I'm not sure. But he's really throwing me off because in the preview, and I know I shouldn't be talking about the next episode, but there's one point in the preview where Jasmine is asking him, is there anything more you want to know about me? And the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, what's your favorite sexual position? And while most men, especially myself, we wonder that when we first meet a young lady, but that really came across to me as a 14-year-old conversation piece. And I'm like, dude, you're like 40 years old. Is that really where you're going when it comes to your wife? And she asks you this very open-ended question, like, what do you want to know about me? That's what you picked. And one part of me understands that question, because you want to have a relationship that is very open sexually. You don't want it to be rigid where you have to ask, and you want to be very open sexually. But I think I'm concerned because it appears to me that Eris leans too heavily on it, and he doesn't have any recoil, any recourse. Once he actually gets the sex from Jasmine, where does he go? Where does he go from there? Because he's so heavily focused on it, you have sex with him. Now what? Can he have a conversation about family? Can he have a conversation about, his ambitions? I'm not sure, because all of his conversations center on sex. And I really feel somewhat bad for Jasmine. I feel like she's going to get a raw deal here. She got a guy that's kind of prima donna-ish, and he's like 40 years old. So it's very interesting that he's still in this phase. A lot of guys, they go through their phase where they want to, attack every female they see. But at some point, that usually evens itself out, and they look for one. Now that's the state that Eris is trying to tell us he's in, but his actions they don't really support that. And let's not get talking about the cousin. The cousin is, in my personal opinion, very, very inappropriate. And I understand she cares for her cousin and all that kind of stuff, but her cousin's a 40-year-old man. So at what point is she just hating? At what point? Because I feel like there's a fine line between I love my cousin, I support my cousin, to I'm hating on my cousin, I'm hating on his spouse. There's a fine line. I feel like she's already crossed over it. And I think that I would take her discretions more seriously if she was married. But being that she's single, I feel like she should actually do more observations than verbal talking, on the basis that she doesn't really understand how to cultivate a marriage. I've been my tongue herself, how to find a love interest to hold on to herself. So at what point is she just talking crazy? I feel like anybody who's offering advice about anything that they're not an expert in, it's just like, what are you doing? I feel like that's not the best move. you at least should be dating somebody. I'm not sure if she's dating someone or not, but at the bare minimum, she should be dating somebody, preferably engaged or married. If she's giving that type of precautionary advice, I just don't understand the cousin at all. But yeah, I'm getting nervous with this couple, and I think you can tell. All right, the next couple I would like to talk about is there's a couple in here. All right, Clint and Gina. All right, ladies, let's get this out the way. Is Clint a total 12 out of 10 babe? That's what Gina called Clint when they got to the hotel. Now, I'll be honest with you. Clint surprised me this episode because I looked at Clint as someone who was quiet. Like, Clint doesn't come across to me as a ultra confident man to me. And then you see him in action, and I cannot help but be impressed. I'm like, this guy is swaggadocious. He's not afraid. He jumps right in. He's adventurous. I like all that about Clint. And, it looks like Gina also appreciates that. I will also say this. I wasn't a big fan of her look. And I know that sounds very hypercritical, but it just wasn't my type. When you're looking at women in any capacity on any for any reason, whether it's a show or in person, whatever, you're always trying to gauge whether or not you could find yourself with that person. Would you find that person attractive? If I was Clint, would I like, that kind of thing. At the wedding, I wasn't really feeling the look, but this episode really allowed me to see more of her personality because of the edit. At the wedding, she came across as very one-dimensional, where she's only talking about herself and you know her job and stuff like that. So when you couple that level of conversation with the fact that she doesn't really fit what I would date on a normal basis, I just wasn't feeling it. But this episode, I saw more of who she was or who she is, and I'll have to say that she's absolutely gorgeous, actually. And I knew that before, but again, a person being gorgeous by a certain standards doesn't mean I like them. I'll find them attractive. But this episode, I said, wow, she is actually very beautiful. And the fact that she's ambitious only adds to that. But it was kind of cool to see that she found Clint attractive at first. But then when she's talking to Clint's family, she brings up the fact that she's not attracted to gingers. And if you watch the preview at the end of tonight's episode or yesterday's episode, you also hear her tell Clint to his face that she's not attracted to gingers. Like, hey, you just look the way you look. I'm like, ugh. And Clint is not the kind of person, I've seen this in two instances. He's not the kind of person that's going to tell you how he feels immediately. He talks to himself, he talks to the camera during his confessions, and he goes off. It's a stark contrast to what you see on the camera, what he says to himself or to the audience or to the cameraman as he's talking to himself for his confessions. And another thing about Clint that I'm noticing is that he has a very short fuse. He doesn't seem to be someone who can take a lot of anything. So he gets irritated very quickly. We heard him on the night of the wedding while talking to Gina, like, hey, did she talk about anything else? He didn't say that to her, but he said it. And that told me like he don't really have a lot of patience. So I feel really earnest in saying that Gina better start making some adjustments. And I say that because she's irritating the crap out of Clint. And I think that once Clint gets enough, he's going to start verbalizing those things that are inside in a way that just kind of shows he's starting to build up, like he's building up. And now it's just going to start splurting out. And once those things that he says to the camera and to himself start coming out, I'm not sure Gina is going to be able to receive those things. And it's going to be very easy for Gina to, do other things because she's already an entrepreneur. She's already barely visible or available. Her friends said that multiple times. So once Clint goes off on her, she's going to invest herself even more so in her work. And we even saw some talk of that where she's like, I left my phone, I won't have my work phone. So again, she's still talking about work. And that tells me when she says that she's still thinking about work. So I'm not sure how this couple is going to do. I said divorce, and I'm starting to see that that's probably still likely. All right, the next couple that I would like to talk about, and it's the last couple, is Shaquille and Kirsten. Let me get it out the way now. Kirstens family is the nightmare family that you just don't want to deal with as a husband. they come across as they love Kirsten, they're supportive, but really they're just in the way. And it really sucks to see that family grill Shaquille, who I believe is okay. I don't think he's as good as he might be positioning himself or projecting himself to be, but I do think he's genuinely a decent person. I do think he is a person that tries, and that's more than I can say about a lot of these guys out here. But they were very prejudgmental, and it made me wonder: are they grilling everybody to this extent? Because one, that could be why Kirsten was single in the first place, because this bodyguard of women won't allow anybody to fall in love with her or anybody to like her or for her to like someone else. And it was really hard for me to watch. Also, just listening to Kirsten, it continues to land to my narrative that I'm starting to form about her. And it is that she's a new age social media diva female. Like, there's a new subculture of women that are so self-absorbed that they can't find love for that reason by itself, because they're so superficial. They don't know what real love is. It's all about them. It's all about the way they look. It's all about the way they feel. They never stop and consider what the other person is thinking. And I feel like she falls within that category, that new age woman that I'm talking about. And you know what? I'm not sure how I feel about it. I said stay married initially, but that's before I started to see some red flags in Kirsten's character. And as far as Shaquille, this episode showed him in a more reserved light. And it's mostly because he was getting grilled. And even when Kirsten went and sat down with Shaquille's family, it's my opinion that they were very respectful. They didn't grill her. They didn't put her in a space that made her feel uncomfortable. And it said to me, what gives Kirsten's family the right to do that? Because not even Shaquille's family did that. But I get it. I get it. It's a young lady versus a young man. Maybe that is what it is. And maybe I'm a hypocrite, because if my daughter did something like this, I can't promise you that I'm going to be completely understanding. But it makes me worry. Now, we got to talk about the fact that Shaquille kind of dropped his bomb on Kirsten. And you can probably tell by now, I'm not a big fan of her, right? But I still try to be objective in the way that I talk about everyone on the show. So, from one aspect, Kirsten got the bomb dropped on her, in which she was not able to go to the honeymoon on day one. She had to go to her husband's research business, what have you. And from one perspective, I'm like, yo, that's what marriage is sacrifice. It is having to do things you don't necessarily like to do. And I thought that this was a great first test for Kirsten. And it was like, hey, if you can't get through this, I'm not sure you're ready for marriage, because this is like nothing. You miss one day of a vacation, like that's and from the other side of the spectrum, I said, dude, how selfish was that for Shakira to do that? Maybe not give her a preemptive warning, like, hey, so I'm sorry to break the, like, let her know that early, because her hopes were so up. And she's the kind of person who won't be able to handle that type of news like she should. There is a woman out there who would have heard that news and said, I understand, I'll be there to support you, but this is not that person. And you got to know who you're dealing with. You have to know your audience, because this is the person that's going to say, I have to sacrifice this because you trying to do this and I got to stay in a hotel, which she said. So I get it from both perspectives. I get it from both sides. But I will say that, hey, the man got a job. He has a career, and he has some things he has to accomplish. And I'm going to tell you, this, this ain't going to work, man. I'm going to just tell you right, it's not going to work, because he's not going to the bar. He's not going clubbing. He's going to do research on a college campus to better situations for him and his wife, right? And the first thing she thinks of is herself. That is exactly what he's going to get for the rest of his life with this person, unless she matures. Like, hey, sweetie, I have to do this mundane task, this important task. I mean, you name it. And can you hold down the house? Can you hold down the fort? Can you travel with me? And it's gonna be like, no, I gotta get my makeup done, or no, my girlfriend's gonna go out, or no. So she just comes across as that person. And you know what? I know why. It's because, yes, she is very, very attractive. She's very beautiful. And when you're that attractive, you're not accustomed to saying no. You're not accustomed to having to wait, right? You're so used to getting everything on the spot. So that is going to be what I believe she will have to overcome in order for this marriage to work. And I'm not sure that she'll be able to do that in what 6 weeks, however long this process lasts. I'm not seeing her being able to do that, and it's really a shame because I like this couple. I just don't think that she has the relational maturity to make it work. You definitely saw Shaquille show a lot of maturity in this episode, and I have to just point it out again. Kirstens family showed themselves to be very immature in the way that they talked to Shaquille. I just thought that that was just very immature. It just came across as, some girls from the neighborhood. Like, it's not, it didn't come across as educated women holding a person accountable and trying to figure out what his intentions are. It just came across as, girl, I gotta check, I gotta get him. I'm gonna put him on the hot seat. It's just like, ugh, and it's very unattractive. And I know what he was thinking because I'm putting myself in his space, and I'm like, what am I thinking right now? If I'm an educated person and I'm trying to make an honest woman of a person, and their family is saying these exact words, what am I thinking right now? I'm like, do and you saw nobody wants to talk about this. That's why I do it. You saw Shaquille see her without all the beauty and the makeup and all that, and you saw his attraction drop. It dropped, folks. You might not want to ignore, okay, but it dropped because at the wedding, I'm gonna tell you right now, and if Shaquille was on the line in my somewhere nearby, I'm pretty sure he would be able to attest to this. Shaquille saw his wife as a 10 out of 10 at the wedding. But when she stripped off all the superficial, materialistic, fake stuff, she dropped down to about an 8. Okay, without the makeup, she's about an 8. Without the fake hair and extensions, she dropped down to an 8. And I saw this, and I know this to be a fact because I was looking at Shaquille's face, like I was zoomed in on his face, right? Right when Kirsten was in the bed with Shaquille, and I just saw it. He just like he looked at her with like a side look, like. And I know what he's thinking, like, wow, you look kind of different than you did just a moment ago. So, you know, I say that to say, I just hope that Kirsten humbles herself. Like, you are beautiful, all that, but a lot of your confidence comes from materialistic fake stuff. Like, when you take all that away, all of it, the extensions, the fake lashes, the nails, the makeup, when you take all that off, you'll be surprised how normal you are, right? And as such, I'm hoping that she can realize that she got a pretty decent guy in front of her. Because in her head, she doesn't think Shaquille is a good catch. And I'm assuming it's because he doesn't look like a filtered, fake Instagram model guy with abs and baby oil all over him. Because she wants that. But I'll tell you what Shaquille does look like. He looks like a husband. And if she's in this program for the right reason, then she got what she wanted. But I'm not sure she really wants a husband. I think that she wants the look. She wants to feel like she's within the look, within the crowd, kind of keeping up with the Joneses, as some people say. So I'm not sure. But that's my assessment for this week. A lot of stuff is kind of coming out. I hope that I get to find out more about Mac and Dominique. I want to know what's up with that. And I don't think next episode will divulge into it. I think that will be about what the next episode after the next, because it will more than likely happen after the vacation. I think it's that. I also want to see the honeymoons. I want to see like what happens if anybody argues. Usually the worst arguments happen at the honeymoon. So these are the type of things I'm looking forward to. But if you enjoyed this conversation, do me a favor and like the video, and definitely subscribe, because I don't see why I wouldn't keep doing these until the season ends. And even as the next seasons happen, I'm probably continue doing this. And maybe next time you can join me and hop in the comment section and, kind of push back on some of the things I'm saying. But with that being said, I see you in the next one. Peace.